What a nice backyard you have. Oh, how I can't wait to destroy it. Kiss your yard goodbye. Hey there, Mr. Redder here. And the destroyer of backyards, me. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My Karen mother-in-law destroyed my backyard, gets taught a lesson. To provide some background, my mother-in-law lives in the basement suite of our house, and despite our language barrier, it hasn't caused any major issues. She takes care of our 4-year-old and 2-year-old while my wife and I are at work. One day, I noticed that my 4-year-old son was unable to drive his ride-on car onto the patio because there was a 2-inch gap between the patio and the yard. Instead of having him drive the car clockwise onto the yard, where he could easily reach the patio, my mother-in-law decided to pile up soil and gravel on the grass to create a ramp. I still can't understand the logic behind her decision. I take great pride in maintaining my yard. I prefer having a beautiful, soft, and even grassy area for my kids to play on, rather than a dry, patchy stretch of dust. My mother-in-law is well aware of this, and she knows how much effort I put into it. Last year, she made sure to tell me that it was my wife, not her, who accidentally burned a patch of grass while trying to deal with ants using boiling water. However, this year, without my notice, she piled up soil and gravel in a section of my backyard early in the spring. When it was time for me to start my annual yard work, which includes trimming hedges, killing weeds, mowing, reseeding, and fertilizing, I discovered the damage. The grass was gone, the soil was tightly packed like concrete, and loose gravel was scattered all over the yard, posing a hazard for my mower, which now has a chewed-up blade. It took me the entire afternoon to dig out, loosen, and level the soil. I also had to collect all of the gravel and use an entire 5-kilogram, 11-pound bag of lawn patch for the repairs, mulch, seed, and fertilizer. It will be late into the summer before the yard begins to regain its lush appearance. Today, after a light rainfall overnight, I was checking if the yard needed watering when my mother-in-law stormed out, insisting that the pile of soil and gravel had to remain there for my son. I lost my temper and gestured angrily to show her that he could still drive his car by simply going clockwise around the yard and through the patio. She stormed back into the suite and later informed my wife that if I didn't like how she babysat the kids, I could take care of them myself, even though I already do, and she only helps when I'm working. I struggle to understand the logic here, since the issue wasn't about her ability to supervise the kids, but rather the destruction of my yard, just to avoid changing the direction of my son's car. Unfortunately, my wife has taken her mother's side and argues that she has the right to do whatever she wants with our property. Am I the jerk for repairing the damage my mother-in-law caused to my yard? Update. The character limit prevented me from explaining that this was not an isolated incident. My mother-in-law has caused permanent damage to the yard on multiple occasions without even mentioning it, including creating a hole in the line of cedars that surrounds the yard for privacy because she decided they should look like the neighbor's pine trees, not cedars. I caught her after she had already done one. Pruning a large spherical hedge into a mushroom shape so she wouldn't have to duck under the branches or walk around it. Ripping out decorative ivy from a large flower garden in the front yard to turn it into a vegetable garden, because apparently the 7x20 vegetable garden in the backyard wasn't enough. She repeatedly shows she doesn't care what we're doing with our yard. Additionally, I'm not mad about the extra work. I'm mad that she felt she was in a position to chew me out for undoing the work she did, undoing the work I did. Here's where I say that you don't have a mother-in-law problem, you have a wife problem. Your mother-in-law made changes, your wife was happy with them, and you changed it back. No communication. I'm going to say everyone sucks here. Just making changes without talking to someone is low-level, petty, passive-aggressive crap. Everyone sucks here. Firstly, you obviously don't spend that much time in the garden if you don't notice for weeks or months. Your mother-in-law should have absolutely asked before changing anything. Why didn't you make him a temporary wooden ramp? There's more than one way to fix a problem. You say you take pride in your yard, but then you say you didn't go out there until early spring. Pick a story and stick with it. You're the jerk. You didn't notice for months, and now it's a problem because the grass doesn't go right to the patio? Take advantage of the excuse to get rid of the rest of the crap and plant some real plants. At best, this is everyone sucks here, because she really could have asked. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his mother-in-law? Please let us know. Something tells me these bozos leaving the comments don't know a thing about lawn care. Something tells me they don't know a thing about anything. Now let's keep this rockin' so we can finish up and go spread our fertilizer. Am I the jerk for returning a birthday gift I got from my boyfriend after he insulted me about my colorful past? This happened last night, but my phone is still blowing up. I, female 26, dipped into my savings and got Mike, my boyfriend who's 27, a PS5 for his birthday yesterday. He knew he was getting the PS5 because he told me that the PS5 is the only thing he wants. We've been together for 4 years, so the cost didn't matter. That is until I found out what he thinks about me. Some background. When I was 18, I was involved with Jake, a guy who I met online. We ended things after 3 months, and I moved on shortly after with Adam, a guy from work. I found out a couple months later that Jake and Adam were actually really close friends, but I didn't know Jake long enough to meet his friend group, so I had no idea. After finding out, I took some time off dating, and 2 years later, I met my current boyfriend, Mike. I was upfront and honest with Mike about my past and the fact that I was unintentionally involved with friends. He said he understood and my past didn't bother him. Last night at his party, I showed up with the PS5 and him and his friends were screaming with joy. His best female friend, Jessica, laughed and said, "I wish I got around so I could afford a PS5 too." I looked at her with an "excuse me" look on my face and she just said, "Never mind," and walked away. I confronted my boyfriend about it and he said, and I quote, "She's just messing with you. You can't take a joke?" So I pushed further as to why this girl is even calling me names to begin with, and he said, "Well, everyone knows you got around before you met me." I asked him to explain how so, and he said, "You know, messing with best friends." He then pat me on the shoulder and said, "That's okay, because you're not the same person you were back then, and I can get over your colorful past and your mentalities. And if I can give you another chance, you can get over Jessica's comments." I didn't say anything. I just got up, took the PS5 from the gift table, and I left. He was ticked off. He literally called me 20 times, but I didn't care. I was so hurt that I took off the bow and I took it straight back to the store that I got it from. They happily refunded me. I thought that was done, but Mike and all of his friends, including Jessica, are going off on me for being petty, and they're all saying I brought this on myself by making poor choices. I responded to Mike and told him that he deserves better than me, so go find someone without a past like mine and get the PS5 from them because I returned it. He started screaming how I'm the biggest jerk for returning it and how I should be happy he ignored my colorful past. I'm thinking maybe I took it too far. Am I the jerk? I'm so confused, but maybe that's because I'm an old lady who got married around the time you were in kindergarten. A. If anyone was wrong in the Jake and Adam incident, it was Adam. You might have dated friends, but he dated his best friend's ex. That's on them to figure out, and Adam's mistake only. 2. Where I come from, dating 3 dudes in 7 years does not mean a colorful past. Not the jerk, and I hope you do something special for yourself with a little of that money you got back from returning that gift you got for your ex-boyfriend. Not the jerk. Nothing about your past is even colorful. OMG, you dated 2 guys that happened to be friends. Good heavens, where are my pearls? I must clutch them. Sounds like Jessica is either getting with this guy or she wants to. She can have him. Use the money to get yourself something nice. Your past isn't colorful. You haven't done anything wrong. There's no need for you to feel badly about who you dated, and frankly, it's no one else's business. The fact that your boyfriend not only judged you, but also shared his judgment with his friends is inexcusable. You don't do hurtful things like that to people you care about. He wanted you to feel less than. You did the right thing. Now you need to find someone who deserves an amazing person like you. Don't settle for anything else. Definitely not the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. I would have turned it around on them. Oh, I'm always open for an upgrade. Too bad all of your friends are even bigger betas than you are. Am I the jerk for banning my sister-in-law from my house over tomato sauce? I, 28 female, have an older brother who's 32 male. He's married to my sister-in-law who's 33. I get along with her well, except for this one point. If you don't keep an eye on her, she'll go into the kitchen and add seasonings to whatever is cooking. She thinks she's fixing stuff, but not all foods need turmeric in it. This Saturday, I received 40 pounds of tomatoes. It took me the whole weekend to turn it into a sauce that I was planning to can. I can it plain, then add whatever seasonings and herbs it needs, depending on the recipe. They came to take a bag of spare clothes for one of their kids, and in the 5 minutes it took me to get it, she managed to get into the kitchen, add salt, pepper, turmeric, olive oil, garlic powder, and Italian herbs to all 5 of the pots that were simmering on the stove. She shouldn't have done that, that's wrong. And when I asked her what she was doing, she had the audacity to say, "This sauce needed some taste. I added it for you." Like I've never told her to not touch what I was cooking before. I was so angry that I knew I couldn't be calm talking with her, so I simply walked to my brother, told him to take the clothes and his wife, and that she's no longer welcome in my house. She had followed me, was shocked, started apologizing, but I just ignored her. I added that he should come by tomorrow to take the sauce that his wife ruined, because otherwise it would be thrown away, and that I expected 40 pounds of replacement tomatoes. They left, he came back with the tomatoes, an apology letter from her, and an apology carrot cake, my favorite. But I told him that I stand by my decision. Now my parents got involved, since I'm the one that usually hosts, and since she's not allowed in my house, I told them to make alternate plans for Memorial Day. My husband says that I'm in the right, but my parents say that my reaction is way overblown. So, am I the jerk? Edit. Since there seems to be some confusion, I'm not planning to host for Memorial Day and not invite her. I said I'm not hosting. My parents or my brother should host, and I will attend as a guest. I might be angry, but I don't want her excluded. This is so boundary disrespecting, disrespectful, and insulting to what you're cooking. And it wasn't even for her. Not the jerk for being furious. I do think she's learned her lesson though. OP. She thinks we don't season enough. But here's the thing. If I'm making Indian or Chinese, I toast the spices and grind them with a mortar and pestle. My Ethiopian friend says that I make spicier food than her mom. But if I'm making mac and cheese, a burger, or mashed potatoes, of course I'm only using salt and pepper, because usually the flavors are in the sauce or gravy. Not the jerk. She's crossing boundaries, poking into something where she doesn't belong. It's all kinds of wrong to mess with someone else's cooking. What if you were making something for someone allergic to turmeric? Good on your brother for replacing the tomatoes and on her for apologizing. That said, you're still in the right for banning her from the house, especially if that's happened multiple times and you've been clear with her that it's not acceptable. If you're thinking about letting her back in, I'd make sure the apology is a real apology first. Not, "I'm sorry if your feelings were hurt," but something which takes responsibility for her actions. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that his dream of becoming a successful streamer and content creator isn't going to work? I'm a tattoo artist and a piercer. I co-own and run a tattoo and piercing business with a friend, and I have many employees under me. We are open 6 days a week from 1 p.m. to midnight. 4 days are a regular appointment schedule, while the final 2 days of the week are walk-in days for people who want something faster than usual without having to set up a time. On top of setting up and closing the shop every day, I drive 45 minutes to work and then 45 minutes home each day. I get home past 3 a.m. almost every night, eat, and then sleep a few hours. We're busy constantly throughout the week. I only have 1 day off, and I usually end up spending it cleaning the house, cooking, or doing anything else that needs to be done. My boyfriend, on the other hand, is trying to become a successful Twitch streamer and YouTuber. He started around 4 years ago. He has a few dozen followers on both platforms and usually has around 2 to 5 viewers for each stream or video. It's gotten pretty bad in the past 2.5 years or so though. He streams while I'm at work, and that'll usually be an 11 to 13 hour stream a day, depending on what he does. His life revolves around content creation now. He wakes up to stream, then spends all day streaming a game, and then uploads it to YouTube. The other problem with it is that in the 4 years he's been doing this, he hasn't worked a single job. He's unemployed. Not one single donation or any monetary expense has come from his endeavor. He literally does nothing but stream. He quit his floor manager job at Walmart to become this. I've talked to him recently about maybe cutting down the hours on his streams so he has time to do stuff around the house, spend time with me, or better his health. He doesn't even eat unless I remind him when I get home late. It's literally hurting him. I also explained that maybe he should think about getting a new job so I'm not the only one paying all the bills or groceries. I'd like help of any kind. I can't do all this alone anymore. Each one of these talks has turned into a fight between us. He will get super defensive about it and tell me off. He tries to convince me that I don't understand his lifestyle and that I don't understand how hard it is to be a content creator. It's gotten more and more heated. He'll have a tantrum and go back to streaming to his community that supports him. The other day, I straight up told him his dream of being a successful streamer or content creator of any kind is never going to work out the way he thinks it will. He doesn't seem to understand that the hours he's putting in are doing more harm than good, for us and him. He had another tantrum and promptly told me he wanted a break from the relationship. We aren't talking, and now he's doing nothing but the same usual routine. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. So during this break, is he still living with you? Because that's not really a break. I definitely recommend dumping him and never looking back. He acts like a kid, and you're his parents and responsible for paying for his food and shelter. Please date an adult next time. Your life will improve dramatically. Not the jerk. 4 years and still not being able to gain any monetary value from it? Sounds like a hobby to me. Hobbies don't pay the bills. Not the jerk. He's not your boyfriend, he's your dependent, and of the moody teenager variety from the sounds of it. Not the jerk. He's delusional and in dire need of a reality check. It's okay to support your boyfriend while he works at building his career, but this is not it. Not at all. It's leading him nowhere. Never waste your life with a leech who wants to use you and add nothing of value to your life. Am I the jerk for telling my sister she needs to pay for childcare or I'm not going to her wedding? I'm 25, female, and my sister, who's 28, her wedding is in a couple months. She recently sent out invitations. I was invited as a regular guest, not a bridesmaid or a maid of honor, since we live a state apart, and obviously there's a certain level of involvement and time that goes into bearing part of a bridal party, which I understand. I want to be there for my sister, and obviously I'd like to see her get married. But the problem is, I'm a single mom. My son is 6, and when he's not in school, I need to be home watching him. So being out for hours at a time isn't really in the cards for me right now. My sister's wedding is child-free. Since it's taking place in her state, I'd need to commute, and I'd probably have to be gone from my house for 2 full days. I can't have family watch my son since they'll all be at the wedding, and I don't really have friends who will babysit for 2 days. I contacted my sister and asked if she'd be willing to let my son come to the wedding with me and explained that he couldn't be left alone so young and that I didn't have anyone to watch him. She responded by telling me her no kids policy was strict and that she wouldn't make exceptions. I explained my situation again and said I'd need some form of childcare or to bring him with me. I then asked her if she would pay me to hire a nanny or a babysitter to watch him. She got offended and said, "Children and weddings are both parts of life, and you need to just figure it out. It's not my kid or my problem." Which sure, that's true, but also her wedding, her making it a problem by not allowing me to bring my kid. I told her she could either pay me for my childcare or I wouldn't be going to her wedding, which all she did was call me ridiculous and entitled. She said she shouldn't have to pay for my kid and that part of being an adult is knowing how to take care of that kind of thing. I know that's ridiculous. Money is tight, childcare is expensive. I can't magically afford for someone to watch my 6-year-old and most people would just let me bring him to the wedding. My sister says she's definitely not paying for childcare and, "I guess you're not going to the wedding then." My whole family is mad at me for not being there for my sister. Am I the jerk? Edit. I think some people are misunderstanding the post, so I'll make it more clear. I'm not trying to force my sister to pay for anything, and it's totally fine if I can't come. She accepts that, and I just don't go. It only became a problem when my entire family came after me for not going to the wedding. I'm not mad at my sister for not paying. I'm mad at her for turning the family against me and saying, I don't want to attend her wedding, and complaining about me behind my back to my parents. She complained about me not going to the wedding as if I was purposely avoiding it. You're the jerk. I get where you're coming from, but you went about this all wrong. I'm sorry, but it's not within my budget to travel so far and also arrange to pay for my childcare when I get there. I send my best. Full stop. Don't ask for handouts from a stressed out bride. Is that what people do? If she's gracious, she or the family will offer a solution, but you don't ask for that. That's where the entitlement came from. In the end, the kid is your responsibility, no one else's. You're the jerk. It's no one else's responsibility to pay for your kids. Completely unreasonable ask. Asking a bride a state away, your sister of all people, to pay for childcare for a night or two so you can attend their special event is not unreasonable at all. Between sisters, like, hey sis, I can't afford this thing. Do you really want me there? If so, I have to ask, can you pay for the childcare so I can attend? Otherwise, I may just have to bow out. If the conversation went like this, and OP sister reacted with her stress and psycho in the moment, it might be fine. But OP wasn't asking unreasonable things. This is across state lines, a travel wedding, and a sister who's not even a part of the wedding party. It didn't have to be a screaming match. It could have been, "Oh no, sis, I can't pay for that with all the wedding expenses. I'm so sorry you can't come." Like, what planet are we living on that it's abnormal to ask a sister for help in a situation that they're being put in by their sister? What the heck? Aside from some tone issues, which I won't police, no jerks here. Your sister's position that it's her wedding, there's no kids, and as your kid's parent, you need to figure it out is totally valid. Your position that your parenting responsibilities come first and that unless your sister can help out with childcare, you won't be able to attend is also valid. That's how you've figured it out. Not attending is a valid solution to this problem. That's the default solution to your situation. Anyone judging you for your parenting choices or your inability to afford childcare is a jerk. Am I the jerk for saying I'll be driving myself and paying for my own room on the upcoming family vacation so I won't have to be a babysitter? I, 23 male, was repeatedly stuck playing the part of helper and babysitter on family outings. I had to move out of my parents' house because I kept being forced to help watch my 3 nephews. Last year, we took a family vacation in summer to the coast. I rode along with my parents and they paid for my hotel room. Only I had to share that room with 3 rowdy boys because my sister and her husband wanted a room to themselves. I was promised time to do my own things on the vacation, but instead, I ended up having to help with these kids. I complained to everyone about it, and I was reminded I was there for free. And then we pretty much just did only one thing I wanted to do, which was tour an art gallery. I like doing this whenever I'm at the coast, but the kids find it boring. This year, my parents have a beach trip planned for June, and they assumed I'd be riding along the same way as last year. But I refused. I said I'd be driving myself and paying for my own hotel stay to have my own room. My parents were shocked and tried to remind me of the cost. I said it was expensive, but no worries. I've got a good job and a good decent running car. I can more than afford it. That's when the buts started. I stated the previously listed things as why I'll be driving myself and paying for myself. I want to be able to enjoy this vacation as an adult and not be treated like a kid like last year. My parents told my sister, and she called to blow up at me that I'll be ruining the vacation if I'm off doing my own thing while she has to wrangle her 3 kids. I ended up yelling at her that last year all she did was rope me into her mess. I didn't really get to do much of anything I wanted to do, and I was treated like the bad guy for wanting to just go to an art gallery. I'm a grown man. I deserve my own vacation too. Now my sister is not speaking to me, and my parents are still trying to convince me to just ride with them to keep the peace. I'm still refusing, but the pressure is getting to me. Am I the jerk for not giving in? I know they'll have a pretty hard time when they won't have another person there to help. Edit. It's barely been an hour since I posted, but my sister is apparently a Reddit lurker in the mornings and she saw my post. Not only is she furious with me, but she's also upset no one in the comments is siding with her. To make it short, she went on a big rant about how it's so hard to be a parent to triplets, and the least I could do is help because I'm young and single and she needs a break. I stood my ground on my decision, and now she's calling our parents to get them involved too. I'm expecting a call from them any minute. Update. Well, I'm off work now, so I can tell more of what went down. I guess you could say it's over. My sister got our parents involved, they looked at my post, and were absolutely horrified by the continuous influx of commenters. Yes, they're very angry with me that I posted here, but I told them that if they had just listened to me to begin with, I wouldn't have needed to. I'm sick of the whole keep the peace mentality that sacrifices me to placate my sister. They in turn went off on my sister, and to make a long story short, the whole vacation has been canceled. The hotel wasn't booked yet anyway, but my parents are arguing with my sister is blaming me, and my nephews are crying because they aren't going to the beach. My sister called me at lunch and basically implied I have no life, which is why I have time to help. I recorded that and told our parents, and that's currently what they're fighting about. I sincerely thank everyone here for all of the advice, but I don't think I'll need to update again. That's a laugh. She's admitting that she's ruining your vacation so as to not ruin her own. They're her kids and her responsibility, not the jerk. In fact, you're nicer than I would be. I'd just say, no thanks, I've got other plans, and avoid the family vacation altogether. Not the jerk, but if you're paying for yourself, go somewhere else on your own and make it a hard no to the babysitting. Am I the jerk for telling my parents I'm willing to sell them my forgiveness? My parents expected me to be independent the minute I turned 18. They gave me the money they had saved up for my education and they started charging me rent. I was lucky enough to have a partial scholarship and I found a job in the city my university was in, so I moved there before the school year began. With my parents' money, my scholarship, and my wages, I was able to scrape by. I rarely, if ever, spoke with my parents. I was kind of busy. I guess they decided that they didn't want that kind of relationship with my younger siblings because they were not presented with the same option. They both lived at home all through university and even afterwards. I'm 34 now with a decent job and a great girlfriend whom I will be marrying this summer. I sent my parents and siblings an invitation. They called me to ask why they were not involved in the wedding. I responded that they hadn't really been part of my life in 16 years and that I was being nice by inviting them. They said that they acknowledged that they made mistakes when I was young, but that was in the past and I should get over it. Against my fiance's advice, I sent them an itemized bill for everything I paid for myself that they freely gave my brother and sister. I said if they wanted to be a part of my life, they had to ante up. They said they can't afford that because they're still in debt from helping my siblings out. I laughed at that and said I hoped that I would see them at the wedding and hung up. My family are all getting a hold of me and letting me know how I'm hurting my parents. The thing is that I don't want their money, and I don't want anything from them at all other than their attendance at my wedding. If they can't do that, then I'm fine with our yearly phone call. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Maybe the itemized bill was a bit much, but I imagine it was cathartic for you. Your parents haven't really been around in a decade and a half. They have a lot of nerve to ask to be involved. Not being involved in your wedding is just reaping what they sowed. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding. Landscaping owner rips off my friend for $400, so my friend makes him incur $15,000 in expenses. A while back, my friend was selling some stuff online, and among the items was a water heater. You know, the ones you see in every community hall and church kitchen. It was in working condition. He threw it up online for $150 and got an email from a person who runs a landscaping business saying he'll give him $100 cash today. Done. 2 weeks later, he got an email saying that it's not working. Weird. So my friend offered to give a full refund or cover repair cost if it's under $100. The guy instead sent an invoice for $400 saying the repairs had been done, and if my friend doesn't pay it in 48 hours, he'll send a debt collector after him. He paid it out of fear and emailed him the confirmation. The landscaping owner then emailed back saying, "This is the price you sometimes have to pay when selling secondhand electronics," followed by a "Have a great day. Don't let this hold you back," with a smiley at the end of the email. A month later, my friend was in a bar and overhears a girl talking about how her boss, who runs a landscaping firm, did over some guy selling a water heater. My friend said, "Oh no, I gotta hear this. Do you mind if I join your table?" And the girl said sure and told the story. Her boss had brought a busted water heater from a secondhand store for $25 and a working one for $100 and billed the seller for the repair for the busted one before he sold it for $300 to some community group. My friend asked, "Who did this so I don't hire that guy to fix up my yard?" She says the company name, and lo and behold, it's on the email of the guy my friend sold the water heater to. He was the jerk in this story. He told me he was pretty angry about it, but lockdown then hit, so he had other stuff to worry about. 18 months later, he was browsing the website he originally sold the water heater on, and he saw a bunch of landscaping materials: shovels, gardening stuff, wheelbarrows, lights for working at night, drills, nail guns, some construction materials, and a generator. Now, in my friend's location, apparently, if you're selling a generator, then you need to have a warrant of fitness for it, proving that it works, it's safe, no flayed wires, etc. Most people ignore it, and he saw that this generator is being sold by the landscaping firm. This generator, he said, just by looking at it, there was no way it would have a warrant of fitness. Word of note, failure for a business to provide the warrant upon request for a generator after 2 weeks, when reported to the official departments and enforced by the court, the punishment is a hefty fine, and the courts often force the seller to refund the affected party and pay any costs that they incurred. evilplottingmusic.mp3. He talked to his flatmate, who agreed that they would go 50-50 on the generator, but he would transfer the money. Now, my friend had never met the landscaping firm owner face-to-face when selling the water heater. He left it outside and pickup was confirmed via his security camera. And when he gets there, it was clear that the owner, this old grumpy-looking man who enjoyed yelling at his employees, had emptied out his storage unit. The owner was very much, "As it is, no refund," and the flatmate showed him the transfer confirmation, and they take the generator for $800. No warrant of fitness provided. They then took it to a friend of theirs who's an electrician, and he agreed to check it out and give an invoice for repairs, and to quote the friend, "It would be cheaper to buy a new generator, and to be honest, This generator shouldn't have been sold. It should have been scrapped. They also found that the main identifier number had been scratched off, but not the second number that's often recorded on the warrant for tracking purposes. So they got in contact with the seller, telling him the cost for repair, around $5,000. He promptly tells them that he's not paying, as it is, no refund, to which they then asked, "Have you got the warrant of fitness for this generator?" Silence for 2 days. They followed up with another email asking for it. No response. They then ask again and get an email from him saying that he'll take it back for $800. They said, "No, we want the warrant," and they get no response. They emailed him every day for 2 weeks, nothing. So they printed out the original item listing that had been screenshotted and had been archived on the website and reported him to the website and then to the government. 4 months later, my friend is in court and the guy went up to him. He tells him that he will take back the generator for $800 and that my friend and his flatmate will be going in to tell the judge that the seller has refunded them and that they want it all dropped, and that's what's happening here. Full stop, end of story. They're doing what they are told to do. My friend said no. So they went into the courtroom and it's over very quickly. The inspector the government sent out to inspect the generator stated that it was in poor condition, shouldn't have been sold, was highly unsafe, and that the seller had tried to get the generator a warrant in early 2021, but instead had been told that it was to be repaired or scrapped and that it was not to be sold. They identified it by a second number on the generator that they took down in the original attempt to get it a warrant, which had not been scratched off like the first. The judge ordered the landscaping firm owner to refund the flatmate the $800, pay the $5,000 for repairs to the generator, and was ordered to pay a $10,000 fine, which would be given directly to my friend's flatmate as the affected party. When they left the courtroom, the owner was furious and told them that under no uncertain terms was he paying them a penny more and that he couldn't understand what he had done to deserve such treatment. To which my friend said, "Remember the water heater?" He gave him a very confused look. "Remember the water heater you bought for $100? Well, I do, because I sold it to you. And I know that you had a different one repaired and invoiced me for it." His jaw was on the floor, and to hit it home, he said, "It sucks, doesn't it, when what goes around comes around, especially when it accumulated interest. You have 48 hours to pay or a debt collector will be contacted. Remember, this is the price you sometimes have to pay when selling secondhand electronics. Have a great day. Don't let this hold you back." And they left. He paid the $15,000 2 days later. My friend and the flatmate split the $10,000 50-50 as they agreed, combination of rent payments and study stuff. The generator they got repaired, and then they got a warrant for it before selling it for $1,000 with a newly replaced identifier number. They then went out for a wonderful dinner and night out in town. Huge shout out to our newest subscribers, KBC, Ruben, and Rude Boy J. Do this, subscribe to our channel and tick the bell for all notifications, and you could get a shout out in an upcoming video.